We set the alarm because it was our first day of work today. Get up and shine. Put your hand up for mine, Randy. Do you remember how you felt the first time you watched My Name Is Earl? NBC took a chance on a weird sitcom about a loser with a mustache who drives an old car and thinks the world is punishing him and that the only way to stay alive is to be good. We had karma confusion because of the show. And one of the funniest people ever to appear on TV. But have you ever thought about why Earl's eyes were always closed in pictures over 4 seasons? Or that there was such a huge amount of happiness behind the scenes that the story had to be rewritten? And the biggest surprise of all? The ending of My Name Is Earl was actually very different. And finish that was never shown because NBC ended the show in the middle of it. It was like they no longer believed in the cosmic justice that the show taught. We're going to remember the 20 stranger things about My Name Is Earl today. Some things that you might have laughed off the first time may make you want to start over with episode 1 when you watch them again. 20. Jason Lee used to be a famous skateboarder before he changed his name to Earl Hickey. I didn't think much about Jason Lee when My Name Is Earl first came out. In our minds, he was just Earl, the man with the mustache and the worn flannel shirt who moved funny and seemed to be always half a beat behind everyone else. Earl didn't look like a figure that was made up. The way he looked made him look like a real person who got stuck on TV. That feeling wasn't a fluke. Jason Lee had a very different life before he became Earl Hickey. He learned to skate as a kid on tarmac, where his tricks often failed and the sound of wheels hitting concrete could be heard. Lee owned stereo skateboards and skated professionally. Stereo skateboards was a big part of street skate culture in the 1990s, when everything was free and didn't need permission. And Jason Lee didn't play Earl when he joined My Name Is Earl. He gave the part his whole self. The lack of care, the detached look, and the slightly off-balance stance made it look like the person had never learned how to make everyone happy. It was all left over from skate culture. It wasn't a set where Earl Hickey was made. He was faked on the streets. 19. It was almost like Earl didn't have a beard. The broken down El Camino and the Karma list are the last things that come to mind when I think of Earl Hickey. That beard is what it is. In a strange way, though, that famous detail almost never existed. Jason Lee was strongly against the beard. He was afraid that it would make Earl look like a complete idiot, the kind of person who makes people laugh as soon as they see him. Lee was raised in the street and has always tried to avoid simple stereotypes. Having a mustache meant that he might be stuck in a silly part for the rest of his life. But the hosts saw something Lee didn't. In a time when shows had a lot of faces that could be switched out, they needed a quick way to tell who was who. With just one look, everyone in the room knew that was Earl. There is no conversation or introduction. It was agreed upon in the end, and a paradox arose. He was who he was because of his beard, not because of it. Because of this, Earl looked like a real person from a small town, awkward, stubborn, but honest. Earl changed and became a better person. On the other hand, the beard was great from the start. 18. The name Earl was written wrong. Have you ever thought that the name Earl sounds strange, a little funny, and like it would fit a bad luck guy who believes in karma? A name that isn't heroic isn't cool and doesn't make you think of greatness. It sounds like it was made to have a life full of slip-ups and problems. However, how many of us ever thought, what if Earl wasn't named Earl, when we watched My Name Is Earl? He was never meant to be called that, that's the truth. He was going to be called Carl, after his father. It's a safe name that doesn't mean anything special. But his whole life went in a different direction because of a small mistake on his birth certificate. The letter C was written too much like an E. It wasn't an accident or a curse, it was just a bad handwriting. And Carl was no longer there. Earl was born. I can see how disturbing this detail is now that I watch it again. It doesn't say that our lives fall apart because of big choices in My Name Is Earl. It says that mistakes so small that no one thinks to fix them can sometimes be the start of fate. And Earl's bad luck may have begun with his name. 17. It all started when someone lost something. You may have felt that way when you lost something small and then thought, what if it mattered? That moment for Greg Garcia came from a real lottery ticket. Before the book My Name Is Earl was written, Diego Garcia lost his lottery ticket one time. He wasn't sure if it had won or lost. There wasn't a build-up or an ending. It was just a terribly normal thought. What would you do if fate gave you a chance and then took it away? This question is what made Earl Hickey come into being. A man who has a bad life wins the lottery all of a sudden, but poor Earl gets hit by a car right when he should be celebrating. It was like the world was telling you straight out, you don't deserve this yet. When Garcia pitched the idea to NBC officials, they almost turned it down. A show about a loser who wins the lottery and then does good things for other people. It was too weird, too dangerous, and not like anything else on TV at the time. But Garcia wouldn't give it back because the lottery ticket wasn't about money to him. It was written fate, and it was the beginning of Earl's whole karmic trip. 16. It was almost like Joy Turner wasn't even there. Do you remember how you felt every time Joy Turner showed up on TV? She didn't even need to say anything. It would get tense in the room. It was clear that things were about to go badly from the sharp voice and eyes that were ready to fight. But not many people know that Joy was never meant to be that way. In the first draft, Joy was just Earl's annoying ex-wife. She was just a supporting character whose job was to cause trouble and then leave. A real figure in the background. You might have forgotten about her after just a few shows if everything had gone as planned. It was then Jamie Presley came in. And everything changed. Presley brought so much fierce energy to the role of Joy that she couldn't be ignored. Aggressive but steady, stupid but dangerous. The writers quickly realized that Joy could no longer play a small part. The plot had to be written over, though. Joy went from being a minor character to being the chaos in Camden County. Without her, My Name Is Earl would not be possible. Joy wasn't made to just pass through, she stayed and took on the part. 15. In any picture, Earl's eyes are always closed. Have you ever looked at this Earl's license? Pictures of your family? Mugshots? Earl has his eyes closed in all of them. At the time, it was simple to think of it as a silly joke or a visual running gag meant to make people laugh. But really, it was just a small remark. In a nod to the 1994 movie Forrest Gump, My Name Is Earl, Earl never opened his eyes in any picture. Even though they seem very different, two people are a lot alike. Both are being pushed along by fate. They both live good lives by instinct. Both of them don't see the whole picture of their lives until it's too late. You don't notice things like that when you're young. One way to figure out if a movie is telling you something is to watch it again. We're just not old enough or wise enough yet to see them. 14. There is no Camden County on any map. I remember being interested in Camden County in a strange way while watching My Name Is Earl. You think it's real because it's a town that shows up in every episode, but it's also not quite real because you can't put it anywhere. I first thought it had to be in New Jersey. Then they paid more attention to the slow pace of life, the roadside diners, and the rough-looking people. I thought, no, it looks more like the South. The longer I looked, though, the more clear it became. Camden wouldn't decide on a plan. It turns out that was done on purpose. Greg Garcia made a town that wasn't in any particular state on purpose. Camden was put together from an awful lot of different places and emotions. Many everyday things to make it a place that everyone feels at home in. A town that everyone could call home, no matter where they grew up. Real life doesn't have to have Camden County. It's there to tell us that anywhere there are stories about making mistakes and getting a second chance. 13. This kid is named Camden after Greg Garcia's son. Back then, I watched My Name Is Earl and never thought about the name Camden. Too much of a natural, everyday feel, like a lot of small places in America. Until I found out the truth. Camden wasn't just a name. Greg Garcia called it after his son. It changes everything about the town, every Welcome to Camden County sign, once you know that. Every time Earl drives down a road he knows, it's like a father giving a quiet gift to his kid. Garcia put his son's name in a world where getting it wrong doesn't mean the end and everyone can start over, make things right, and be forgiven. It's not a fancy or big city. There is a lot of trouble in Camden, but the people there are friendly enough to think that things can get better. And maybe that's what Garcia wanted to leave behind, a world in his books where people really believe in second chances. Cameron is more than just Earl's setting. It's a gift for Dad that was sent to TV. 12. There is no such thing as karma for Greg Garcia. Did you believe in fate in the same simple way I did when you watched My Name Is Earl? You will have bad luck if you do bad things. Do good things, and good things will happen to you. It sounds like a story for kids to read before bed. In a strange twist, though, the show's creator doesn't believe in karma at all. Greg Garcia said that karma was first just a joke, a way to get Earl into more trouble. There is no moral preaching or thought here, just comedy. Then the crowd did something Garcia didn't expect. They believed it was true. Because of a show, people wrote letters, made lists, fixed mistakes in their own lives, and started to try to live better. Karma went from being a joke to a belief in this way. Not because that's how the author meant it to be read, but because people needed a reason to think that doing good things is still important. 11. It has palm trees in Kentucky. I remember that the first time I noticed this feature was when I watched it again in HD. Before, on an old TV, everything was just barely clear enough for your brain to hide the mistakes. Then all of a sudden, something didn't feel right. There are palm trees in the crab shack, in the pictures on the wall, and even in the introduction. For some reason, this Camden County is in Kentucky, but Kentucky doesn't have palm trees. The weather doesn't let them. Geography says no. Logic things. Is this a mistake in consistency then? A lost toy or a joke taken on purpose? There is a world called My Name Is Earl where karma can be measured, Randy can become smart by mistake, and fate likes to play tricks on people. In that kind of world, the fact that Kentucky has palm trees doesn't seem so strange anymore. It's possible that Camden was never meant to follow the rules of the real world. Earl's El Camino looks like it was made by Frankenstein. This seemed strange to me when I watched My Name Is Earl. To be honest, I didn't remember much about the El Camino. In my fuzzy memory, it was just an old car driving through scenes. It didn't have any personality or energy, so there was no reason to pay attention. Earl needed a car, so it was there. I didn't know this until I watched the show again later with a different attitude. It was easy for me to miss because it wasn't flashy. The El Camino wasn't a real car. The body was an El Camino from 1973. The doors were from a model made in 1977. An engine from a 1987 Camaro was used inside. A machine put together from pieces that didn't go together. Not finished. Not making sense, but still running, and all of a sudden it felt very familiar. Familiar with how life works after enough crashes to know that your own existence is also a temporary assembly carrying the old solution. What needs to be fixed and what needs to be torn up and moved on. It's not because everything is okay, but because we can't stop yet. I only saw an old car back then. I can now see all of Earl in it. 9. 3 brothers were played by one actor. Don't you remember how strange it felt like everyone in Camden County looked the same, like you'd seen them somewhere before? I thought at the time that living in a small town with lots of family was normal. I found out the truth a long time after the fact. Billy Gardell played all 3 of the Ho children. There is one actor who plays 3 different roles. The actors have different hairstyles, clothes, and beats. The same look. Not too different to not stand out. Like enough for your brain to accept it without any problems. It was that very thing that made Camden feel so real. You always feel like everyone in a small town is linked to each other in some way. My Name Is Earl doesn't tell you anything, but it makes you think you've met these people before. 8. Randy's real father is the mailman with one eye. Some things are nice to look at, even if you don't understand why. One of them is the Camden messenger with only one eye. He only shows up for a short time and doesn't make you laugh out loud, but you always feel like you know him. The truth is that he knows them. Bill Suppley plays the mailman with one eye. Ethan Suppley, who plays Randy, is his real-life son. Most people who saw the movie never knew that the father and son were acting together. That natural connection is what makes Camden feel like a real town where people know each other without having to explain it. Where the mailman might know someone and that's not seen as strange. There are times when acting doesn't need to be done at all. 7. No one knew Randy in real life because he had changed so much. Randy will always be the naive, slow-moving younger brother who needs Earl to lead the way. He is like a child stuck in an adult body. After a few years, I had to look twice when I saw pictures of Ethan Suppley in real life. He lost more than 90 kilograms, which is such a huge change that it's hard to believe. From the awkward picture of Randy, Ethan turned into a symbol of hard work, physical power, and reinventing oneself. The reality that Randy never grows up on screen really got to me. But in real life, Ethan broke away from the picture that used to stick with him. A shock after the show. It shows that the person who changes the most isn't always the one you expect. 6. A real injury was used in the show. Do you remember times when My Name is Earl didn't quite fit together? A scene that looked messier than usual. A crash that looked really painful but didn't hurt anyone. I thought at the time that they were just trying to make it seem more real. It turned out to be true sometimes. In a sketch that made fun of a police show, an actor who was supposed to be a cop hit his face on the door of a patrol car. An error that wasn't in the script. He didn't cut, though. He just kept acting like nothing had happened. The team kept it inside. Not because they didn't have enough coverage, but because it was a great reflection of Earl. You never know when life will hit you, and you only have one choice. Get up and keep going. That's where pretend and real life become less clear. My name is Earl, and I've always lived my best life in that blur. Darnell is both the nicest and most dangerous person in Camden. Since I saw the show for the first time, I've always thought of Darnell as the safe. He speaks softly and is kind. He turns crab cakes over and gives calm advice. The person you trust would never do anything bad to anyone. Then the twist comes. Darnell is more than just the owner of the crab shack. He used to be a CIA killer and is now living in hiding as a witness. When you know that, the whole series changes color. When you watch it again, everything seems fishy. Too much calm, eerily accurate advice, and the way he handles problems without thinking about it. That Darnell was never kind. He was taught not to show himself. The most dangerous person in a town full of stupid is the one who stays quiet. This is one of My Name is Earl's best moves backwards. 4. Some people don't get the joke about Big Chubby and Little Chubby. There are jokes in My Name is Earl that will make you laugh right away. Some work only if you bring your memories with you. Burt Reynolds plays Big Chubby. His son on screen is named Little Chubby, and Norm Macdonald plays him. At first glance, it looks like a fun job. But this is a very sharp jab for people who watched Saturday Night Live. Norm Macdonald made fun of Burt Reynolds for years on Saturday Night Live, mostly in the Celebrity Jeopardy sketches. Norm even wears the same outfit from those versions in My Name is Earl. As a result, the person who made fun of Burt Reynolds is now cast as his son. A great joke about jokes. There's no need to explain. No need to stress this. This is how My Name is Earl always is. It doesn't expect you to catch everything, but if you do, it quietly pays you. 3. The end credits of every episode show Greg Garcia's real-life friends. You probably did the same thing I did back then. When the show was over, you grabbed the remote. The credits kept going because there was no reason to stop. But My Name is Earl hid something nice where not many people ever looked. At the end of each episode, a small line that says Amigos de Garcia shows up next to a picture of a different person. Not artists or characters, but friends of Greg Garcia from real life. There are 96 shows, and 96 friends are quietly honored on TV. The end credits of most shows are used for logos and legal language, but Garcia used them to say, "I remember you." It was a small thing, but it was exactly how Earl acts when he wants to spread kindness without bragging. Catalina is not swearing, she is just saying thank you. As the series goes on, everyone remembers how Catalina speaks Spanish quickly and with a lot of anger. There are no captions or explanations. People in the audience naturally think she's swearing a lot. The truth is not like that at all. Catalina doesn't use bad language. There are thank you notes to Latino fans saying thanks for watching, for supporting the show, and for sticking with it. Something hidden that only people who know the language would notice. It has the finest form of My Name is Earl's hidden karma, chaos on the outside and kindness on the inside. A little something for people who are willing to listen. First, the ending of My Name is Earl has been around since 2013. We thought Earl's story was over when NBC canceled the show in the middle of its run. The list isn't complete. No one knows who Earl Jr.'s real father is. NBC turned its back on them. But in an online AMA on October 1, 2013, Greg Garcia told everyone the finish. When asked who Earl Jr.'s real father is, Garcia joked that it might be Dave Chappelle or Lil Jon, a famous person he slept with once. But the real answer was somewhere else. Earl was never going to finish the list. He would get stuck on one thing and then meet someone else with a list. That person would make other people want to do better. Earl would understand that his list set off a chain of events. Not because of Earl, but because they wanted to, people were living better. Earl breaking up the list is the real ending. He knows he doesn't need it anymore. The good is already out there. He walks toward the faraway view. No cost. There is no longer a need for the list to end. That might have been the best way to end a show that showed how one act of kindness could spread further than the person who started it. Going back to read My Name Is Earl after all these years feels strange. We watched it back then as a simple comedy to pass the time. A man with a thick beard who was unlucky, a handwritten list, and a town full of strange people. But when you watch it again, the tone changes. It's not just karma anymore. There are awkward people who won't give up and stories about how small mistakes can take us far. There are also times when you don't need to finish any lists at all. Just improve the world a little. Earl will never be perfect. Camden will never be perfect. However, good things keep going, just like how this show has lived on in our thoughts. What made you stop and think when you watched My Name Is Earl again? How did I not notice this before? Is there a memory you still have of Earl, Randy, Joy, or Darnell? Tell us about it below. Also, if you like going back to old shows to find things we missed the first time, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on alerts to join us on more TV memories.